Hey, instead of Steve, please like and subscribe. Please click on the Deck Heroes icon, click on subscribe. It's 100% free. Blood in, blood out. And don't forget to click on the Deck Heroes icon just so you don't miss any amazing content. So anyway, I've seen the first 5 or 10 minutes of this video, and that was last week. I can remember the gist of what I saw. I did a video recently about passport bros. In other words, people who take their passports, Europeans usually, or people based in the West, and go to other places looking for traditional women. You know what I mean? Just those kind of just traditional relationships. Anyway, let's see what's got to say.
My name is Paulie. I'm a Korean American and I moved to Thailand 4 years ago. I'm a full-time content creator and a digital nomad.
Paul is 28, from New York. Now he calls Bangkok, Thailand, home. He's one of many young Western men who identify themselves as passport bros.
A passport bro is a recent term that's been very popularized recently. It's basically where a man traditionally from the West moves and migrates to another country like in Latin America or in Southeast Asia to pursue women they see as more feminine, right? And the whole goal of this is to find a long-term relationship and to build a family.
The biggest topics on the internet.
I first saw it on social media a couple years ago and it was just blowing up all over my feed.
They're leaving in droves for other countries.
I want it all. Women, clothes, and cars.
These videos are some of the tens of thousands with the hashtag Passport Bros on TikTok.
Every drink is a ritual. The atmosphere is pristine.
The term passport bro is believed to have originated in 2004 to describe Brazilian sex tourism. It then mostly fell out of popular use. But then, in late 2022, it was revived and exploded in popularity, according to Google Trends. The term trended on TikTok and Instagram as borders reopened and international travel resumed post-COVID-19. By November 2023, the hashtag Passport Bros had gained more than 470 million views on TikTok. So what is driving this surging trend? Well, the popularity of Passport Bros coincides with the decline of romantic relationships in some Western countries, particularly in the United States.
Right now in America, I'm seriously concerned that there is a big shift happening. And there are a lot of factors that feed into it. So we have less marriages happening.
Arlene has more than a decade of experience as a dating and relationship coach. Now she travels around the world to teach matchmakers the art of connecting people. A 2022 Pew study showed that 63% of American men under the age of 30 describe themselves as single, compared to 34% of women.
The matchmakers that I work with are finding a big difference in expectations from what women want and what men want. In the past, I would say women in particular would get married for financial security. They'd no longer need that. Now they want to get married for love. They want to find a partner who's compatible, who has similar core values and lifestyle goals, and a partner who's going to confer and not just go off and make decisions on his own. Young men don't know what they're supposed to do to connect with women. Women don't know a lot of the things that what they should be looking for in a man. There's no blaming women, there's no blaming men. It's just that it's an uncomfortable time where things are changing.
One change is reflected in how the genders view society. Young women in the US have become increasingly liberal, while men trended slightly more conservative. This divide is especially stark after 2017. This period coincided with the Me Too movement, a social campaign to raise awareness of sexual assault and harassment against women. Me Too went viral following the allegations of abuse by Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein. The gender divide was widening and bled into romance.
They're becoming very antagonized towards each other, especially on social media. Like they'll say that all women are bad or all women are going downhill. There's no good women in America. They'll say these general statements like this. And I think those kind of narratives can just further divide people.
Men and women have very differently evolved psychologies. Our female ancestors had to make sure that we were with partners that would...
Before we get into this, I think it's very important to highlight the reason why guys are saying that. That's because their generalized experience leads them to that conclusion. It's not just they're watching the videos. There's a lot of, listen, there's a difference between the guys who are at the very tippity top, the top, say, 25%, let's just say, they're getting all the women. They get all the women. The people in the top 25% of men getting all the women. There's no problems whatsoever. Tomorrow's a new day. It's probably going to be sunny. But the other 70-odd%, approximately, it's a best guess, they're struggling. You know what I mean? Just struggling above whatever that bar of tolerance is. And it's all the bullshit that they're having to go through, which is kind of leading them to this frustration with the whole system. So you only need to bump into, and one or two people, often enough, who just got this kind of toxic, entitled expectations upon the other person, where they just want him to jump through 1,000 hoops and pay for 1,000 dinners with nothing offered and nothing promised, not even their own kind of not even that they're going to keep themselves exclusive to you while you're chatting them up. You know, they're going to have about 1,000 guys talking to them, you know what I mean? And it's this kind of half effort and, you know, just kind of attitude with it. I'm not saying everybody, I'm just saying it's this kind of enough of people along those lines, not exactly like that again, but along those lines, where it kind of puts people off. And then it's reinforced by everybody else's shared experience on that kind of, you know, under the red pillars. That's to be contrasted where people are raised in other parts of the world. It's just simple facts. And that's why they take their passports and their money goes a lot further, and they're kind of like a meeting of objectives. So, yeah, fair enough, the women want to be provided for all around the world, including there. But they're also interested in marriage, in long-term relationships. I'm not saying every time somebody goes abroad on a holiday or whatever, they're looking for marriage, and I'm talking about the men, obviously. Some will be, and some will be looking for the short term, newsflash. But at least some of the time they'll be going over there seriously bored of the whole dating game. They're very nice guys. They're very good guys. The ones that should be being snapped up in the West, but they're being rejected for some bullshit reason. Like, you know, okay, you're not over 6 foot. Okay, you're not flaming Chad. You're not kind of built like a brick proverbial, you know what I mean? You're not taking me to Nobu for dinner, you know what I mean, or whatever. You don't want to go for you don't want to go for a walk as a first date. Oh my gosh, man, you're an awful person, mister. Joking, obviously. So, you know, all that kind of bullshit. That's why they take their passport, take it upon themselves to find somebody else who may actually share their values. Whilst we're here, they did make some very good points that men in general are looking for somebody feminine, nurturing, whatever that kind of means. I think that just means agreeable to me and a potential mother. Compatible, that's a mystery grey, but similar core values, and that's just kind of good company for me, good company to be around, that positivity and just not trying to use me, you know what I mean, for some short-term bullshit and take all my long-term resources to do it. I said, what? And that's not even that much of a problem in the UK. It's probably more problem in the States, as I've seen anyway. They mentioned about some fears with the passport bro movement, something about that brown people should service the what? I think they mean like the Westerners are being serviced by the people in East Asia. But listen, you could say in Russia and some parts of Eastern Europe, where you get more traditional women and different. See, what I'm really thinking is even in places like Poland and Croatia, they may well be more inclined, I get the impression, I don't know every single one, to be more of that traditional partner kind of situation, which most guys are agreeable with, and most guys are kind of looking for the intrinsic things that men are looking for. And I think there's been that shift to these intrinsic things that some mystery other is looking for. It takes a man and a woman to make a relationship, and a man is just looking for a compatible partner. So that's one of the things that's requested, but just kind of too often missed. And I'm not saying that nobody's getting married, obviously, but just too often missed. That's why at some point, given people's ages and readiness to kind of move on with their lives and have an actual family, they may well get the passport and go abroad. She also mentioned something about, just be very quick, marriages are down, and that 63% of men under 30 said they were single, which is in comparison to like 34% of women under 30, which basically says that these women must be dating older men, you know what I mean? So those will probably be the guys who've got more of a financial standing, and that is what I do say in other videos, really. Listen, don't spend your limited resource on a woman and taking her out to some date or getting her flaming nails done or some other bullshit. Invest in self until you can securely look after yourself, and you're a better prospect anyway. And to be honest, then she's going to be wanting to be with you. You're not having to like, you know, force her attention in some way. You know what I mean? So you probably end up having to pay less overall. You'd have to pay something because you're going to be chatting her up. Listen, guys, newsflash: you're chatting her up. You need to come with some kind of interesting proposition. You know what I mean? That might well cost some money. I'm not saying first date, maybe not even second date, but at some dates you're going to have to invest something realistically to take her somewhere entertaining. And somewhere entertaining is not going to be the park Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Newsflash. Yeah, and she also did mention something about women tend to be more liberal, have moved towards being more liberal, and men towards being more conservative, and I think there quite possibly is that. This was pre-election. A lot of women voted for the right as well. So there's a lot of conservative women out there as well, and either way, needs to be compatible anyway. Let's go.
Care for our offspring. And so in a modern environment where suddenly we don't need men anymore to provide resources. So many women might realize that actually, wait a second, I don't need a man. And male psychology, on the other hand, is very much inclined to pursue a lot of sexual and mating opportunities.
A study in 2020 found more Americans have become sexless, especially young men. About 1 in 3 men aged 18 to 24 said that they had no sexual activity in the past year, a significant jump from 2000. But this wasn't the case for women.
So you could see how in a modern environment, when a male psychology cannot really pursue these opportunities anymore, that they might turn to other strategies to obtain sexual or romantic access.
To find romance, some men are trying their luck overseas. These are the passport bros. Many of them are young digital nomads, professionals who leverage internet connectivity and remote working tools.
I'll tell you that again.
Really pursue these opportunities anymore, that they might turn to other strategies to obtain sexual or romantic access.
I think what she just said was, in summary, the only reason why these guys are going abroad is just for sexual reasons. So, and again, listen, that's such a wide and bullshit generalization. Yes, some of them will. But or maybe at the minimum they want their future wife or partner to be attractive. Of course, you know what I mean, and probably of childbearing age. You want to throw that one in as well. But that's not going to be the only reason. And there's going to be others who, yeah, fair enough, they want to go over there on a holiday and they're not really thinking long term. But the point of this video and the point of the term passport pro in comparison to somebody who's just on a holiday is that and this is what we're talking about, I thought, passport bros are going over there because they actually want long-term relationship. Yes, as contrasted by others who just want to go have a holiday. You know what I mean? They're just looking for some short-term. They're going to bounce over there, then bounce back, crack on with their life. That's what we're talking about. Let's have focus.
To find romance, some men are trying their luck overseas. These are the passport bros. Many of them are young digital nomads, professionals who leverage internet connectivity and remote working tools, allowing them to travel and work from virtually anywhere. At their core is a belief in traditional gender roles, which they think are disappearing from Western society.
Passport pro is someone who wants to basically find a traditional wife. I think in the West, a lot of women don't want to be like traditional, don't want to take on these like traditional gender norms, and they want to essentially put on the shoes of like the traditional man, I guess. And I'm not saying that's bad, you know. Every single relationship is different, every person's different, but I think it's refreshing when men come here, they find a really feminine, nurturing woman that trusts them and that they can kind of go in the same direction with, and kind of have the same traditional values and traditional roles, such as women cooking and cleaning, whereas these things would be seen as kind of controversial in the States.
This is the website of a self-described official passport bros company, launched in the United States in 2023. It's run by Prometheus Worley and his son, Clifford. They provide information for aspiring passport bros. Tips include how to date in different cultures, how to find accommodation and flights, or rent a private jet.
Right now, we're just an informational service. That's right. We're standing at 500,000 men, subscribers, and we're not charging. There's such a disconnect between men and women that men have to literally be on their guard just to interact with a woman. So men are opting to leave. You go where you're appreciated versus staying here where you're just tolerated. Much like how
Prometheus first heard about passport bros 2 years ago. To his surprise, the criteria seemed to describe his life long before the movement even had a name. It began when he got divorced from his wife after 12 years of marriage. He was 35.
My spouse had cheated on me, and it shattered my ego. It broke me into 1,000 pieces. I ended up going to Southeast Asia in 2013. There's a whole different culture and mindset that a lot of the women have there. The environment is completely different. Fast forward, my son, who's my business partner, noticed that there were guys traveling, making videos. And he's the one that brought it up to me. He was like, God, Dad, you know, there's these guys that they're doing what you've been doing. They're traveling. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah, passport bros. I'm like, huh, what? We're just coming off of the heels of COVID, the travel bug, and they want to get out. And, you know, why not be that light post, if you will, that guiding light to try to help men where we can in this particular area.
On their website, the Worleys give suggestions of which countries are best suited for passport bros. Among their top 6 recommendations, 4 Asian countries make the list: Cambodia, the Philippines, Vietnam, and Thailand.
If you're a guy looking for a woman that has traditional values, family values, you're going to find it in these areas.
I never made the decision, I'm gonna be a passport bro. It's like, I was dealing with some problems in America, I wanted to leave. But every course in jiu-jitsu out there seems I just felt like I was on this hamster wheel that would never end. When I moved to Thailand, I'm able to relax more.
When he first arrived in Thailand, Paul was single. Though he wasn't looking for a serious relationship, he noticed he was getting a lot more attention on dating apps.
I think in America, a lot of women want someone who's 6 feet tall, makes 6 figures. Here in Thailand, I think it's more chill, it's more personal, it's more traditional.
Eventually, he met his Thai girlfriend through a dating app, and they've been together for more than 2 years now.
I was like, man, this is the best woman I've ever met. She's always trusts me. She's like, you can do this, I believe in you. And sometimes that's just all you need. I never had the intention of being a passport bro, but I guess I am because I have a relationship now.
But with the emphasis on traditional gender roles, critics say the passport bro movement is steeped in misogyny and anti-feminism. How do the women of Southeast Asia feel about the phenomenon?
Before they actually defined this, well, it's going to be interesting what they talk about misogyny. I did do another video on passport bros talking about the financial disparity, but that's not going to be a bad thing necessarily, that you're quite wealthy within a given area. That just means your financial future is secure, right? But also the feminism. Maybe these guys don't want somebody in this kind of modern feminist kind of definition. You know what I mean? That maybe that is the thing. It's not in terms of a bad thing, but that's the thing that's driving it. So it's basically in terms of the ideals of feminism. Listen, traditional I don't want to make this about that. Traditional feminism in terms of equality, absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. I think most guys, every single guy knows that, and every single guy would agree with it. And the ones that don't, they're not the ones to be considered. And that's going to be very, 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 very few. But the modern definition of feminism, and I think in that last video, I'm not sure. I was going to bring up a definition of modern feminism, and if you haven't seen it, I'd suggest you look for it. It doesn't actually aim for equality at all. Let's move forward.
In southern Philippines, a stone's throw from white sandy beaches, the city of Dumaguete saw more expat arrivals after the pandemic. A few months ago, it became the new home for Alex Connolly. He moved from the San Francisco Bay Area in California. A full-time content creator, he's also looking for a relationship he couldn't find in the United States.
Do I consider myself a passport bro? Yes, with some level of reluctance because I know that there's a stigma associated with that term. But dating did come up for me as a strong reason to spend more time in Southeast Asia. For me, it's not about the short time, it's not about the short hookup. There's tons of successful women in the West, and so they're just not getting as much benefit of dating the regular Joe that perhaps a woman in Southeast Asia, she may think, well, he's a basic guy, but you know what? He's an honest man. A lot of the Asian women in these countries are more open to traditional gender roles.
What Alex describes is perhaps found in the home of Leah Buckingham, also a resident of Dumaguete. Leah is a stay-at-home mother of 2. She lives with her American husband, Gary.
Everyone deserves to be happy and feel love, I don't think you should be in a place or in an environment where you don't feel belong and appreciated. One of the reasons why passport bros, prefer to date us because they want to find a real woman that would respect them, that would let them to be the men that they should be, like to be the leader. And most of us Filipina, we respect that. We're very family oriented, and also we're more feminine and more traditional, I would say.
The Philippines is another popular destination in Southeast Asia for passport bros.
Here's why you should leave America and go straight to Philippines. First off, is rent $300 a month is plenty.
This is Austin Abeta, 33 years old, from Colorado. A data analyst by trade, but on social media, he's built a following as a passport bro influencer. Right now, he's living in Manila with his Filipino girlfriend, Jewel.
I do identify as a passport bro, but if the movement were to change into something else, I'm not married to it. Dating is always 2 adults consenting to be in a relationship together. It's never perfect. It's gonna get messy, but I think, for me, I 100% think every guy should experience it, every woman should experience it, dating into different cultures.
Austin has more than 700,000 followers on TikTok and Instagram. His content has accrued tens of millions of views, plenty of love, and a lot of hate.
Here's what I learned being a passport bro. Being a single American guy in South America, I sometimes post stuff like that, but this, and my comments get crazy. People get mad. Step 1, get a passport.
Passport bros like Austin have come under fire for their romantic escapades abroad. The emphasis on traditional gender roles leads detractors to say the movement is anti-feminist, as it implies women should occupy a subservient role to men.
We still tend to equate women with nursing and homemaking and all of these attributes, whereas men as are the providers, are the ones who provide protection and resources. In modern Western culture, right, a lot of women would probably be not happy about the prospect of going back to the norms that they seem so fond of.
It's harmful, this passport bro movement that hold these beliefs.
A lot of women would not be happy going back to the norms and not so fun. Listen, I don't know if it's you. I mean, everybody's different. I know I'm talking to you. You might have a different experience. You know the number of women I hear that actually do want to be taken care of. They don't want to have to work if necessary, and if somebody would finance their lives. Strangely enough, if somebody would finance a very comfortable life, they'd be up for that, and they could focus on family and focus on their kids and all that kind of stuff. There's women out there who want to be a traditional role, fair enough, and there's women out there that don't want to have that traditional role. Then they got to fit into that tiny number of men that want that kind of person. You know what I mean? That's normal, isn't it? Anyway, let's go.
That women should be meek, subservient, and should tend to their needs. This passport bro movement puts kind of a racist and colonial dimension to this, because it kind of fulfills their expectations that brown people should be servicing white people and brown countries should be at the service of white Western countries.
Yet, gender roles are complex. It's simplistic to assume Asian women are unequal to men. For example, the Philippines ranks 25th out of 146 countries in gender equality, scoring better than Canada at 36 and almost 20 places above the United States at 43. Thailand ranks 65.
We Filipina, we know how to covert our role as a wife, and we let our men to lead us in our household. But some Western women, they think that's too old-fashioned. Women should pursue their career and all that. They even said that we are just playing the role because we want to get out of poverty. But the fact is, we are raised like this. That's our tradition, that's our culture,
ความเป็นชาวเอเชียอย่างชาวหญิงไทยมันถูกขัดเกลามันถูกหล่อหลอมมาโดยจะรู้ตัวหรือไม่รู้ตัวก็ตามว่าการเทคแคร์การดูแลเอาใจใส่คนรักมันเกิดขึ้นพร้อมกับความรักหรือความผูกพันหรือว่าการชื่นชอบ
These guys sort of give up on themselves in terms of what success they're going to have here in America, and they are like, okay, I'm not even going to put the effort in. It's almost like they think they're going to take a magic pill and everything's going to change by going to a different country and meeting a woman there.
Just as the passport bro movement grew through social media, there's now a counter-movement disparaging the men who choose this lifestyle.
When you pay attention to the passport bros, they're getting women from the DR, Colombia,
yes.
The Philippines, Thailand, women that can speak very little English, women that don't have education, women that need them.
But here is where these critics are getting pushback. Some from women in Southeast Asia themselves.
Filipinos are depicted as desperate, submissive, and at a man's beck and call. Do you have any clue how insulting that is?
By suggesting that Asian women are easier targets for Western men, there is an undertone of racism. The implication being that Asian women are less than compared to Western women.
A woman commented, if you worked harder, you could get a first world queen. And it's just holy the same sort of stereotypical nature to say all Filipino women are X is to say all American men dating in the Philippines are X.
I grew up here in the Philippines. In this region, we have more women living in poverty than men, more women working in the informal sector, and more women carrying the burden of care work or work at home. And often, they don't have a choice in terms of these expectations of them. But also understand that, women also still have agency, and women are or should be able to make decisions based on what they think is best, based on kind of their personal situations. I think it's so important for us not to see women as victims.
Pam has dated a few passport bros in Bangkok. She's looking for a committed relationship and prefers dating foreigners to local men.
The kind of chemistry is different when I talk to foreigners. When I was living abroad, I just felt talking to people in different countries, I felt more openness.
Overseas educated and a professional in public relations, Pam holds dual degrees in arts and media. She does not fit the stereotype of the uneducated, docile figure that critics paint.
I think I am quite independent as well compared to other Asian girls, but I don't think I'm super different from regular Thai ladies. Asian women these days, we also portray sophisticated and independent. We become more self-reliant, and I think we won't look for the guys that we meet on dating apps and we know that, oh, he just wants a casual date, casual fun. It depends, we can choose as well.
The passport bro movement has been demonized by some people, praised by others, and sometimes there is basis, but as you know, nothing is black or white completely. When a man comes to a country where passport bros go to, and he makes the women think he's looking for love, he's looking for marriage, when what he really wants is to have a good time, then that is exploitative for sure. But in the end, we don't know what's going on in their hearts and minds.
I wouldn't say that all passport bros come here for real love or for genuine love. I'm sure there are some that come here for bad intention. Those are really the type of foreigner that Filipina should avoid because they don't deserve the traditional Filipina.
But even some passport bros admit there is a dark side to their movement, especially in Southeast Asia, a region with a long history of sex tourism. There's something romantic about falling in love with a foreigner. Two people brought together by destiny, despite distance and cultural differences. Many of their preferred destination countries, like the Philippines and Thailand, have a long history of sex tourism and exploitation.
Poorer countries have been sexually exploited for so many years, not just now, ours, Spanish, the friars, etc. The Filipinos have been sexually exploited. This idea about sexual exploitation is not limited to passport bros. But of course, in any movement, you always find the ones that take advantage.
I think those are very fair criticisms, and men do that. Passport bros, there's a lot of guys coming over who they just want quick hookups. They just want to get laid as much as possible, and they'll lie to women to do it. They'll lie and say, oh, we're in love, we should get married and lead these girls on. And I think it's horrible it does happen. But I do not think, the vast majority I've met have not been that way.
This whole phenomenon of Western men coming to Southeast Asians like the Philippines, looking for wives, it's not a new phenomenon. Before the passport bro, you had the femme, you had the dirty old man, you had the mail order bride orders, you had the sexpat. But we have to recognize women's agency. And if they're consenting into certain relationships or even transactions, then we have to respect that.
While Austin says he doesn't belong to that side of the passport bro spectrum, it has nonetheless affected him. By dating Austin, his girlfriend Jewel feels unfairly tarred by these stereotypes.
Jewel doesn't want to go live in America, and it's because women comment on our posts that she's a prostitute. They comment that she's trying to escape poverty. That's the only reason she's with me. And you talk to her, she's educated, she speaks English great. And if she was white, this wouldn't happen.
And here is another side to the passport bro phenomenon. The idea of women's agency. Having dated some of them in Bangkok, Pam thinks it's women who control the game.
Yeah, so for me, I don't think passport bro is intimidating or dominating a movement at all. But as Asian women, we can protect ourselves from being mistreated by them, or somehow we have equal right to choose the proper relationship for us. I think it just depends on the two people in the relationships. They are on the same page if they share the common goal.
ถ้าทุกคนสามารถมีตัวเลือกที่เหมาะสมนะครับยิ่งเยอะก็ยิ่งเป็นสิทธิ์ของเขาเพราะฉะนั้นการที่เขาจะใช้สิทธิ์เหล่านี้ในการที่จะมาหาคนที่ใช่จริงๆผมมองว่าเป็นเรื่องที่ดีนะครับไม่ใช่เรื่องที่แย่เลยแม้ว่าในมุมมองในอดีตเราจะมองว่าแบบการที่ต่างชาติจะมาหาแฟนคนไทยจะต้องเป็นคนระดับเวิร์กเกอร์บ้างคือผมมองว่ามันเป็นสิทธิ์ของเขาที่เขาต้องการในสิ่งที่เขาขาดผู้หญิงไทยหลายคนรอบตัวผมนะครับโดยเฉพาะเพื่อนผมเนี่ยเขาไม่ได้สนใจผู้ชายไทยด้วยซ้ำส่วนใหญ่จะสนใจต่างชาติมากกว่าไม่ว่าจะเป็นทางยุโรปนะครับทางอเมริกาหรือว่าแม้กระทั่งหนุ่มจีนหนุ่มไต้หวันเดี๋ยวนี้ก็เป็นที่สนใจของเพื่อนผมเหมือนกันสาเหตุหลักเขามองว่าเขาไม่ได้ขาดเหมือนกับเขาไม่ได้แบบขาดดุลอะไรกับการที่เขาได้ลองเรียนรู้วัฒนธรรมอื่น
The passport bro movement, having spawned on the internet, might eventually go the way online trends go and fade from relevance. But beneath it, there's a more worrying shift developing, a global pushback against feminism. Prometheus said he was a feminist for many years. The movement, in its early days, resonated with his belief in equality. But somewhere along the line, it became toxic to him.
My views of it started to change when I started to see feminism promotes double standards. Women can have their expectation. They can say, I want a guy with a six-pack. I want a guy with six figures. I want a guy who drives a Maserati, who has a big home. If a man says, I prefer a woman that's sort of on the fit side, a little slender, he's a sexist. How dare he say that he wants her to be thin?
Prometheus is far from alone in this view. There is a global pushback against feminism. It coincides with the surge of men's rights activism and hyper-masculine movements, broadly known as the manosphere. The manosphere is a network of online communities with a belief that men's rights have been neglected, usually laying the blame on feminism. One of the most notorious figures of the movement is Andrew Tate, who became famous for anti-feminist rhetoric. Andrew Tate and his brother have been charged with sexual assault and human trafficking in Romania. Within the manosphere exist groups like MGTOW, or men going their own way, men who want nothing to do with women. Then there is the Red Pill, those who believe society privileges women and suppresses men. The name is from The Matrix, a 1999 science fiction film where a red pill reveals the truth about the world. Another faction are incels, short for involuntary celibates. These are men who can't find sexual partners and air their often hateful and aggressive frustrations online. The Passport Bro movement is also considered as part of the manosphere. There are differences and overlaps, but overall, these groups are linked by one core idea: a feeling that men are losing out.
Women exercise more autonomy, and therefore, in the context of relationships, men might feel like that takes from their power.
When you think about what privilege is, psychologically speaking, then basically it means that you have occupied a spot in a hierarchy that has long remained unchallenged. So suddenly you see that someone is approaching that hierarchy. I could see how that would maybe aggravate some people.
A 2022 global study found that 1 in 3 men believed feminism has done more.
Listen, I've got a 2-1 in psychology and a master's degree in economics. I can tell from that clinical psychologist speaker that they've got that her perspective is there are some kind of cynical reasons other than expression of personal choice that men are having to, or feeling that they have to go to the other side of the world in order to find somebody which fits their own personal, their own subjective kind of things that they're looking for in a life partner. You know, as opposed in contrast to somebody else forcing these individual men to take the crap that's on offer. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about everybody, but in terms of what they've got on options, in terms of what options they've got available, if that's not what they want, if that's not what they want, then they should be forced to have it. Long story short, anyway, let's go. You know this anyway.
Harm than good, compared to 1 in 5 women. A similar proportion of men also believe traditional masculinity is under threat today, and almost a quarter of the men surveyed agree that feminism is to blame for men's loss of economic, political, or social power, compared to 15% of women.
I think feminism can become harmful when it tells a woman that you don't need a man, but not only do you not need a man, you don't want a man.
I think feminism is the ability for women to make their own choice and to have their own freedoms, and I'm all about that. I think there's a difference between that and extreme radical feminism. They think that
I think there's a difference in energy between, yes, the equality of traditional feminism and this, like what he's saying, really the isolationist kind of true motivation of a lot of this modern feminism where they don't want, and I go back to the traditionals about the blue hair and then, you know what I mean, or some of the stereotypes, where they don't want women to be with men. Some of these, not all, some of these women don't want women to be with men, so who's left then? Other women. I wonder if that might be the motivation of some of them. Oh my gosh, mind blown.
men are dominating and oppressing women, whereas the average guy is just trying to make, a living, just trying to support his wife, his family, just trying to do his duty. The average man is not a misogynist. The average man is not out to oppress.
Well, I think for me, feminism is kind of looking at how patriarchy, or the system of social relations that favors men over literally everyone else, harms women and harms those that it oppresses, and also to see how it interacts with other systems of oppression. And without looking at it in this kind of structural way, we might not understand how these issues are actually very gendered, and it affects, poverty affects women differently than men.
The gender divide played out at the ballot box in November. Political observers have linked the victory of President-elect Donald Trump to his campaign strategy that targeted disaffected young male voters. On election day, NBC News exit polling showed the majority of young women voted for Kamala Harris, while young men mostly went for Trump.
I would say that the majority of foreigners that I meet and interact with.
Let's not go past that, right? They've skipped past it. You know when somebody segments something, what did she just say, young women? Why didn't she just say women? Now the percentage, I'm going to rewind it just so that we don't miss it. She said the greater percentage of young women voted for Trump, not women. So I say, whatever you go looking for, it's just, I'm an economist. Whatever you go looking for, you can find. Say if she said, okay, the people between 31.5 and 43 and 3/4 voted for Kamala, and then use that as you're just proving it there. Thank you very much. If you let it skip past you, but don't. Anyway, we go.
Targeted disaffected young male voters. On election day, NBC News exit polling showed the majority of young women voted for Kamala Harris, while young men mostly went for Trump.
I would say that the majority of foreigners that I meet and interact with support Trump. They feel that he identifies with their beliefs, their values, much more so than Harris.
I don't know if one of the reasons the passport bro / movement towards traditional roles is also affected by or affects how the world seems to be voting for populist leaders now. You know, Bolsonaro in Brazil, Duterte in the Philippines, even Trump. But obviously, something isn't working. Right now, the most comfortable thing for many people to depend on, perhaps, is like a populist president or whatever, and is for very rigid traditional roles.
The tide is also turning in Southeast Asia. A report showed an increase in attitudes that reinforce traditional gender roles and undermine women's rights. For example, education and job prospects are seen as more important for males, while domestic violence against women is viewed more permissibly. Some worry that these societal movements will roll back the progress made by women in Asia.
มันก็มีความไม่เท่าเทียมด้วยตัวของมันอยู่แล้วครับเรื่องของความสัมพันธ์ภายใต้ร่มของชายเป็นใหญ่หญิงไทยหลายๆคนก็ยังคุ้นชินกับสถานภาพทางเศรษฐกิจสังคมที่ไม่เท่าเทียมคุ้นชินกับการที่จะต้องพึ่งพาเพศชายแม้ว่าการศึกษาผู้หญิงสูงกว่าแต่ยังมีความรู้สึกเรื่องของภาวะที่ยังต้องเป็นแม่และเมียอยู่ในขบวนการของ passport bro เนี่ยมันค่อนข้างเป็นประเทศที่เป็นมหาอำนาจเดินทางเข้ามาสู่ประเทศที่กำลังพัฒนาหาผู้หญิงที่จะมาบริการมาปรนนิบัติมาดูแลเหมือนแบบประหนึ่งว่าเป็นเมียในยุคเก่ามันไม่ใช่เป็นคู่ที่มันเป็นคู่ชีวิตที่มันเท่าเทียมกันแต่แรกอยู่แล้วเนี่ยคือสารตั้งต้นมันเป็นเช่นนั้นเนี่ยมันก็เป็นสิ่งที่น่ากังวลว่าคุณไม่ได้ยอมรับความเท่าเทียมระหว่างคู่สัมพันธ์ของคุณแต่คุณต้องการจะหาคนที่มันมีสถานะต่ำกว่า
The passport bro.
Listen, I've just been processing that over the course of watching this thing. Just say right now, whoever's there, whatever situation you're right in, there's a billionaire that comes in. And I'm not saying it's going to necessarily be somebody extremely wealthy comes in and they're interested in spending their rest of their life with you, and you can go along with the ride with them, and you don't have to say yes. You don't have to say yes, you know what I mean? You can get to know them, and if it's not quite right, carry on. You know what I mean? But if there's some meeting of minds and some mutual compatibility, your life, for the rest of your life, hopefully, you know, assuming that the marriage goes forwards, and obviously the marriage as a contract is built to express a commitment towards the long term, the extreme long term, why would that be a bad thing? It's a bad thing to pick somebody up from relative poverty, not necessarily poverty just because the pound and the dollar goes further, but from relatively lower income into another much higher income bracket. Why would that ever be a bad thing anyway? But I understand if you look for some kind of economic inequality, if you go looking for it, you can definitely find it.
However, disagree.
A feminist might suggest that I'm seeking a world where men hold dominion over women, that men are the boss, and I'm not seeking that at all. I admire women.
To think that just because men are coming over here, that they're all evil or that they all want to use their economic disparity to like take over women or whatever is wrong. So the ideal dynamic for a relationship for me is that we're both willing to do things that make the other person feel loved and secured and feel intimate.
Before he met his girlfriend, Austin was active on dating apps. So was Pam, who is now seeing a European man she matched in Sweden. The proliferation of dating apps has also been blamed for the mismatch in dating success between men and women. One study of Tinder found that women had a successful match for every 2 likes on the app, compared to 1 in every 40 for men.
It creates just more visibility of how women are kind of afforded to be more choosy. Now there's a lot of candidates, and you get to just kind of, go through your matches and see. And research shows that it takes men a longer time to accumulate a certain number of matches. And I think the visibility of this can create an additional layer of agreements.
A lot of these passport bros don't have great experiences in dating in the West. A lot of these average guys just feel like, man, I'm not catching the attention of the woman that I'm interested in. And they're seeing these guys who are living in Thailand or they're living in the Philippines, these passport bros videos, and they see that there are other countries in the world where the expectations are not so absurdly high due to curated social media that isn't reflective of reality.
Coming out of the pandemic, the Philippines saw a 20 to...
Just before we move on, I think they're going to go into a new topic. There's people I know, they've been single for years. So with that in mind, and again, like the top 25%, okay, they're going to be absolutely fine. They'll have the pick of many women. You know what I mean? But for the vast majority, the other 60, 70 odd percent, not so much the same. So it makes sense that they want to find somebody and actually have a proper relationship. You know what I mean? This whole passport bros thing is not really a complicated concept to get your head around, for me anyway.
30% bump in locals marrying foreigners, while this rose by 15% in Thailand. While we can't attribute this solely to the passport bro movement, these marriages were overwhelmingly between a foreign man and a local woman, while foreign women marrying local men are scarce. Although the passport bro movement is mostly viewed disparagingly in the West, here in Asia, the sentiment is more nuanced.
I don't think it's necessarily wrong, for example, for like a white man to date like a Filipino woman or a Southeast Asian woman. But in Southeast Asia, there is this kind of expectation that women in our region are subservient and meek and caring and will tend to your needs.
I don't feel like being dominated. Like, you know, we look at marriage like a team, like helping each other. When we're happy, that works for us.
There's room for everybody. You know, as long as there's no exploitation, as long as there are no lies, we all have different wants. And if what you need is a more traditional wife or husband, you know, why not?
As for the self-identified passport bros we've met, they seem happy with their choice.
Men and women, we're very different. We think very differently. We have different motivations, we have different worries, we have different goals, priorities. So I think it's understanding our natural differences and then having some sort of harmonious synergy between masculine and feminine, between man and woman.
It's been the greatest decision I've made. I do have my Filipino ID, I'm not proud of it. I'm a certified Filipino alien right now.
Am I seeking love? Yes. Yes, I think that's fair to say. I want to make sure that I can provide children a life that I didn't have growing up. I know that my destiny is here. I know that when I hit that point financially where it makes sense, then I will be here permanently.
Very interesting, very comprehensive, touched on many issues involved with the kind of the nuts and bolts, you know, the foundations, the essential elements, you know, whatever, of this whole kind of passport bro movement, and the kind of the one side and the other side and the motivations. One side being like the goods and maybe the other side being the not so good kind of elements of the same conversation. But I say essentially, people are going out there expressing their own free will. They're not doing anything illegal whatsoever. They're going out there to find a particular type of person which is more in keeping with their own values and what they're looking for in terms of a life partner. They're just not finding it where they are, otherwise they would just do it. So it just makes complete sense. But even if it doesn't make complete sense to somebody else, as long as it makes sense to them, that's all that matters. Best of luck, everybody. Please like, subscribe. That is Steve, and I am